Welcome to this week's version of Negro Please. How's everybody doing? I'm Dallas Scott. Hollywood Huff is here. Quan, the producer. What's going on, guys? It's crazy. Chadwick Boseman died this week, right?
Yeah.
You would have thought that he was a big name in Hollywood for a lot longer than 7 years.
Yeah.
42 came out in 2013, and that was his breakout role. But he's done so many things since then, from Marshall to the James Brown movie to all the Avengers stuff.
Yeah. I feel like he did some movies before that.
Yeah, but he wasn't. But he wasn't
his...
the star. But there were smaller parts in some of those movies. He was on TV too for a little while on that station that was on Freeform.
Yeah.
But those were all smaller parts. His big breakout though was 42. Yeah. He did a great job.
Yeah. He was. It's such a shock, man. Like, you almost wish you knew to kind of prepare your mind for it, but at the same time, it's obviously it's a personal decision. You know, I'm sure his family was involved, and obviously the people who needed to know knew. Right. But gosh, man, like it came out and you don't believe it.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It was.
When was the last time that a major network played a movie after an actor died uninterrupted and then did a tribute afterwards on that?
I can't.
ABC did that, and then so did TBS followed it last night. And
yeah.
I mean, Chadwick Boseman, I mean, he was really blowing up in Hollywood, don't get me wrong, but like I feel that's like a De Niro type situation, a Denzel type situation.
Yeah, there
like
been,
those guys have like
there have been bigger stars that passed away and didn't. You know what I mean? Like maybe this is the start of a good trend. You know what I mean? Yeah, but that was I didn't watch the tributes, but I heard about him.
They did that. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. And you and I complained about this, and this is a selfish thing, and I don't mean to like make light of his death or anything like that. But we've talked about this on the show many times before about these movies where they're going to make a sequel, and they make a sequel like 6 years later.
Right.
And I was jokingly saying, like, what if I'm waiting for this sequel, especially Black Panther, not so much, but like the Mockingjay movies.
Yeah.
What do they call?
I don't know.
I can't think of it. Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, everybody knows what the Mockingjay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like those movies all left on cliffhangers.
Yeah.
And I used to jokingly say, well, what if I die? Is like my soul going to be unrested because I didn't get to see the rest of what happened?
Right.
So like I feel that when you put these movies, like you already know that you're going to do it 4 or 5 years down the road, because they said they're going to do Black Panther 2 was coming out in 2023.
Right.
This is why you can't do that, right? Like,
but here was a good point. Like, we talked about this on the sports show earlier, and Quan brought it up. Like, what if, obviously, like, you know, he knew that this was going on, and he talked to the execs at Disney, and they said, they maybe said, well, you know, the Avengers, kind of the first, you know, era of the Avengers is kind of ending here.
Right.
Maybe they knew he had the cancer, and they were saying, well, we'll give you time to see if you can heal and rest and not put that stress on you.
That's why they
and
pushed
maybe
it
that's
back
why
to,
they pushed it back
to 2020,
because they had the information that we didn't.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, I mean, that was the only thing I could think of, like, that, you know, might make sense in that situation. But, you know, it still is, it sucks no matter what.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no good, you know, way to do this. You find out the main guy here is battling something. What do you do? Right. You know what I mean? Do we just, we're never going to do this again? Or let's give him time to see if he'll, you know, maybe he'll overcome or whatever, and
go through
then
the chemo in the process.
Yeah, and see what happens. So
it's also crazy. Like, who's gonna play T'Challa?
Oh, that's tough, man. Like, you know, it's
Michael B. Jordan is already Killmonger, so he can't be T'Challa.
Yeah, and people are already coming up with theories of like, oh, you know, kill him off and then use the Infinity Stones and all this, and it's just like, man, let's grieve for a minute before we try to figure this whole thing out. But I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like I always feel like in Hollywood, somebody becomes a big name, right? And then all of a sudden you have these same 5 people playing all the roles. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like they were like, you know, like they tried to reboot Fantastic Four. Michael B. Jordan was in that. Then Michael B. Jordan is T'Challa, and then Michael B. Jordan is like in Creed, and then and it's like, God bless him, man. Get his money. You know, do your thing while you're here. but it's just like every time a big role opens up, like how about we introduce some new faces? You know what I mean? Like, can we bring in some new guys?
That's never been the Hollywood motto ever.
Of course.
I mean, since Hollywood started. And then what happens is when they do bring in a new fresh face, like Chadwick Boseman, they do 8, 12, 15 movies in like a 4 or 5 year span. And then you're like, hey, what the hell happened to that dude? Like, I haven't seen him in a movie in a long time. Where did he go?
Right. Like, and I feel like there are so many talented actors. It's easy to find somebody who I think can play T'Challa. You know what I mean?
See, I can't think. It's gonna have to be somebody new.
It's just so fresh in our minds. Right. You know what I mean? That we can't see anybody else being him. Just like we can't see anybody else being Wolverine.
Right.
You know what I mean? But then there are a handful of names you start to think of, but they're all already like big name people.
Right.
You know? But there's so many people trying to be actors and kind of on their way up. And we just don't know their names.
That was the great thing about
like
Black Panther, because it brought along there's a lot of people in that movie.
Yeah.
Like the guy who plays in Baku and all those. There was people in that movie that were given their shot by Ryan Coogler.
Right.
To be in this movie, and it made them stars when they may not have gotten the opportunity.
And that is essentially what I want to happen, and not just the superhero world, but in other movies.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like how many roles has The Rock played? You know what I mean?
Right.
How many roles have we seen Tom Cruise in? You know what I mean? Sometimes they're a little spaced out, but then all of a sudden in 1 year they'll have 5 movies. You know what I'm saying? And all we're seeing is these same guys. And it's like we couldn't find nobody else to play this part. Like, especially a role The Rock is in. Like, he plays roles that basically.
But they just need a big, strong guy to be that. So they just they're not even wasting their time looking for another big, strong guy. I feel that way about every Rock and Kevin Hart movie. Like, you know, do we have to have The Rock and Kevin Hart in the movie again? Like, we've already seen them do this because they don't. Yeah, it's the same. They play the same character in every movie anyway.
Right. Different names, different scenario, but the same two. Yeah.
I don't want to talk about this a lot today, but we're going to talk about some of the violence going on. Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
To me, there's a lot wrong with this. We actually probably should have had Eric Kelly come in and talk about this a little bit today.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be like too much on this subject because I feel like it's just been beaten to death over the last 10 days anyway.
Right.
My issue with this is, so for those of you who have been sleeping for the last 10 days or in hibernation, you couldn't have been out of the country because no other country will allow us in their country. So Jacob Blake was shot by police in Kenosha, Wisconsin. There were protesting going on.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Rittenhouse and his mother drove up from
some town in Illinois.
Yeah, I know this town like too. I've been through there a million times. I can't even. It starts with an A, and anyway, they decide to go up there with AR-15s and protect something. Conflicting arguments about what they were protecting or who they were protecting.
Yeah.
But they went across state lines, AR-15s, walking around the streets.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that, like, God, I really wish I should have had Eric come in here for this, just for this one question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything we've ever been taught about self-defense, if you're a gun owner, is that self-defense is based on not being the original aggressor.
Right.
So that means if there's something going on outside, you don't grab your gun and go outside and get involved in something that's none of your business.
Right.
I feel like that's what this kid did. This was a town 20 miles away. This isn't his business. Yeah. It's not even like, it's not his city government. It's not his county government. Like, it has nothing, whatsoever. But they chose to go there and get involved.
Right.
And then, people are like, well, he got beat up, but he didn't get beat up until after he shot the first guy. And now the news report coming out today per ABC News was that the first guy was actually shot in the back. So I don't understand how this is going to be a self-defense case.
It's
Antioch, Illinois. Thank you, Kamaria.
It's so much going on here is the problem. You know what I mean? So somebody asked me, if you're there and you're in that situation, like, how do you avoid that? And my answer was, well, don't be there.
Don't
because
go
you
and
don't
get
have
this.
to.
There were,
you know what I mean? Like,
there were times when you and I, back when they were doing the protesting for George Floyd, where you and I went down and we went to one protest and we took some interviews and stuff for the YouTube channel, the Negro Please, go subscribe. And then there were some other protests going on, like over the next couple of days. And we talked about, we're like, we're not going down there because that's going to get violent, and I'm just not trying to be in a violent place. Right. And I believe that people have the right to protest, but I don't believe that you have the right. You should be looting other people's business. And we knew it was going to get to that point. Yeah. And we were just like, let's not go down there and put ourselves in that position, in that danger. Yeah. And I feel like, so I honestly believe that there are some people who legit own businesses and they want to protect those businesses. And they should be allowed to. And they should be allowed to, right? Now, if I own a business and, you know, it's just me and my family, probably going to have my wife stay home with the kids, and I'm going to call up a couple of my homeboys, right? Hey, they're going to be protesting by my store, my gas station, my whatever. Can y'all come down here and help me, you know, just protect it, keep it clean, right? Of course, I'm going to call up some of my homeboys. Now, we're there, we're protecting my business. We know what's going down, and we kind of have to be there because it's my business. The issue here is this kid is 17 years old. Who really didn't have any business. Who legally, like, should not have had a gun, like, right? So he lived apparently like 30 minutes away. So 30 minutes in itself is not a big deal. Like, there are places in Las Vegas it takes me 30 minutes to get to, right? Even crossing the state line, because it was 30 minutes, I even look at, like, I grew up in St. Louis. Most of my family lives in Alton, Illinois. So St. Louis, Missouri, Alton, Illinois, right? That's a 12-minute drive, crossing state lines, right? 15, 20 minutes maybe, right? There are places in St. Louis that takes me longer to get to in my own city, right? So I understand, like, crossing state line because there's community there or something you may be attached to. So maybe he had friends, maybe he had family there or whatever. But my thought is, like his mom drove him there. Like, bro, I don't know. I feel like she's going to get arrested. She should be. I feel like that's part of my issue. Yeah, because it's like you're an adult woman and you're bringing your underage kid, in which it's illegal for him to have this firearm. You know what I'm saying? Like a rifle in a situation where potentially you may have to use it. Why would you take your child to that dangerous situation? Right. You see what I'm saying? Right. Like that's. But see, I feel the same way about people who bring their kids to protest. Right. Like, I don't feel like it drives me crazy. I don't care if you're Black Lives Matter or whatever the white version of that, whatever it is. Right. When I see people bring their kids to protest and they put their kids in these shirts, and the kids obviously have no idea what the shirt means. Yeah. Right. Because they're 4 and 5 years old. They have no grasp of what's really going on. Right. You knowingly take your kids to a situation that you know could get out of hand and get out of hand quick. Right. Especially when there's a police presence there and you're talking about things like tear gas and rubber bullets and stuff like that. Right. It's so easy to lose track of a child, and especially a small child, in those types of situations. I don't understand why you take your kid there to begin with. Yeah. Like, my job as a father, I feel, is to always keep my kids safe. I wouldn't even let my kids go down there, you know what I mean, with their other friends, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I believe they have a right to, you know, have their own mind and stuff, but as long as they're minors, no. Because because there's too much, especially now, there's just too much potential for violence to happen. Right. And we say that now, but even when Martin Luther King was protesting, like, do we really need to pull up that footage to see how violent it got? Right. And it wasn't the protesters starting the violence, right? So when you look at all of this in a situation, like, for a parent to bring her child there and they're armed, and again, going back to what I was about to say was, I feel like there are a lot of people who show up under the guise of, we're protecting these businesses. Right. But they're bringing an arsenal of weapons. They're bringing their friends. They're bringing their family. And more often than not, they're the ones bringing the violence, right? Now, of course, you have these videos of people showing up doing things, right? But in most of these cases, and even if you watch the video, the people on the side of the people who are supposedly protecting this gas station or whatever, they, according to this kid, they have like a couple people on the roof doing Overwatch. They got a couple people surrounding the building and stuff. And all these guys have rifles, firearms, or whatever. And you see one by one, basically, protesters kind of leave the crowd, or rioters, or whatever you want to call them.
and approach them, and supposedly those are the people who are showing no weapons, but they're putting these armed people who have rifles and pistols and medic first aid kits and all this stuff. They're causing them. They're the threat to them.
You brought a first aid kit, right? Like you brought a medic first aid kit,
right,
and guns to a situation. What else were you thinking was going to happen?
Right. You see what I'm saying? Like you came prepared for something.
Right.
Right.
And I couldn't find it anywhere, and I looked. I want to know what the law is in Wisconsin to be a security guard or a security company.
Yeah.
So you to the point where you can be hired to legally defend somebody else's property.
Yeah. Because I know, like, out here, you got to get, like, a sheriff's card.
You got to have a PILB license.
PILB license. You got to get all that stuff. Yeah. There are certain exemptions. For instance, like, if you're at a church and you're a volunteer, you know, you can do so much, you know, in those situations. But for the most part, if you're hired by someone, you have to have certain credentials.
Right.
You can't just walk up off the street and the guy's like, okay, just sign this paper. You're now my employee, and this is what I want you to do. It doesn't work that way. In most states, you have to have some sort of credential. But looking at this situation, it's like this dude and his family, they broke every law to be here, and then something jumps off, right?
But see, and then that's the thing, right? Like people chastise Jacob Black because he was a criminal, right? And they're like, well, he shouldn't have been a criminal. He should have complied. These guys broke several laws to get to the point, but now you're vilifying this guy and making this guy a martyr and saying he's such a great person because he was defending America.
Yeah.
He's defending, you know, his rights. My friend Allie, who's over here, like we were, and I feel her on this. And when I think of people like Kyle Rittenhouse, is exactly like how I think. We were driving down Decatur yesterday, and we get to the corner of Sahara and Decatur. And there's this guy with this really cool rat rod car, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's got an American flag hanging out the back. And not just like a little American flag.
Yeah, the biggest one you can find.
Yes.
Of course.
Like he could have laid it over the car as a tarp.
Right.
And she made a comment, and I really feel this. She said, I feel like people who come out parading the American flag like that now have made the American flag the new Confederate flag.
You know what? I agree. Because normally you see that flag accompanied by like the black and white flag with the blue stripe, right?
Which is illegal, by the way.
Yeah. And I think I always think it's funny, and this is something that people don't understand. They're like, what's wrong with the American flag? This is our country, we're patriots and whatever. Like the thing that those people seem to forget is that the thing that makes that American flag so great are the people. The people, the Americans, the actual people who live in this country, who are citizens of this country. Right. And regardless of where we stand, like politically or other beliefs, Democrat, Republican, or whatever, the goal should be that the American people have the power. Right. So when you're running around praising the flag and throwing the flag in everybody's face and, oh, if you don't like this country, leave. Like, have you forgotten what makes this country so great, so to speak?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, have you forgotten that it's supposed to be about people?
But they think it's about them and what they believe. And they forget that, like, the reason this country was developed because people got tired of what they believed was the tyranny of the king in England, and they wanted to be able to think for themselves, you know, go to church for what they believed in themselves. They wanted to be able to have their own beliefs. So they left the country, came to America, and then decided to have a war with England that says, you can't come here. You can't tax us. We're not part of you anymore.
Yeah. I got a guy on the feed, and he's saying, like, you know, we got to stop the looters. The media wants looting, and, you know, we're giving it to them, so on and so forth. Like, here's my beef about the looting. Other than the initial, like, kind of riot that happens, like right when George Floyd was killed, then there's a big riot, right?
Right.
And then 2 days later, there is no rioting.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then there's not that much coverage because there's still protesting hasn't stopped all over the country, right?
The only people that are getting any news about it are Portland and Seattle because they're on a complete extreme level.
Right. And so when you look at it and you talk about the big scale of this, looting and the rioting and all of that is only like 5% of it.
Right.
But it gets a big, huge microscope over it because it's action. Right. And And depending on which news you watch, it gives people a reason to be mad, a reason to stay divided, so to speak. But when you really look at it, like we were talking about earlier, we went to protests, super peaceful. Not one person was, other than chanting, nobody was yelling and screaming. Nobody was being violent. Nobody was threatening violence. The police there weren't even paying attention. They were leaning against their cars on their cell phones, laughing, telling jokes. It is the most peaceful experience that a group of people assembled could have next to chanting. Like there was more aggression at a high school basketball game. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, and that's most of the protest, right? But to say that there is no rioting or it's not a big deal, I mean, I'm not going that far. But however, it's not something that I'm going to waste my time focusing on, because it's not as big as the media is trying to make us believe it is. They want us to believe that all these cities are on fire. No, just a couple police stations, some cars, and yeah, there was some violence. There are some people who are just out acting a fool. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you got to look at, like, that's a job that the police can handle. That's what they signed up for. Like, people are like, oh, the police are under attack. No, they're not. They signed up to do a job. This is a dirty part of the job, but this is also what they signed up for. These people who go and, like, these civilians who go and stand in front of their businesses, they're allowed to do that. But when they start engaging people with weapons, that's not really a job they signed up for. You know what I mean? So
let me ask you a question. If you're a business owner, right? I understand wanting to protect your property, right? At what point do you start shooting at people, right? Like,
yeah,
if somebody's spray painting on your wall, you try and run them out of there, but are you shooting at people over that?
Nah. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a way to do it, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, granted, you're not going to say, like, everybody you approach is just going to peacefully walk away.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Some people you might have to yell at, threaten, and be in a hostile kind of situation. But at the same time, you're talking about property. Yeah, it's your business. Yeah, you might lose money. That's a risk you decided to take when you started a business. It sucks. It's not cool. Is it fair? Life ain't fair. You know what I mean? But you can't kill somebody because they're going to cost you a couple $100, right? You get into a car accident. Do you jump out the car and shoot a guy because it was his fault and he just damaged your vehicle?
I mean, well,
you know what I'm saying? Like, people do it,
right? But, and the first thing people say is, "This guy's crazy."
Exactly. It's far from right.
As a business owner,
yes, please.
In a car accident, you can't say a car accident is the same as somebody purposely trying to bust your business down. That's a totally different.
Because one's an accident, one's intentional.
I understand. I understand.
You're not going to get mad at the accident the same way. You will at first,
right?
Because you hate getting hit. But as a business owner, if there's 30 people outside here, I probably will have a gun. And if people are breaking stuff, maybe the spray paint, no. But if I'm out there and they're spray painting, I'm trying to get them away, and they're getting aggressive on me, a shot might go.
Right.
I mean, it's my business. So you're saying it's just property. That's my livelihood. If someone burns down my business.
But see, but people coming with torches and Molotov cocktails and all that stuff.
Even just busting windows or anything like that.
So I feel like once people breach, that's a different story.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. Like that's totally different if they're busting windows and they're coming in, right? Or
so
it's different if they have fire.
And I'm just out there.
Right. And even to me, like, spray paint is like, okay, I can paint over that wall again tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm not going to shoot over spray paint, but at the same time, you got to realize these business owners are seeing hundreds of people in the streets.
Right,
so you're spray painting. Right. You know, are you getting aggressive at the same time?
Right.
And how many people are around at the time you're doing that? When I'm trying to, like, stop you from spray painting, or 30 people like walking up on me like, yo, what are you going to do?
And I totally understand that. That's what I'm saying. Like, sometimes these things can escalate, right? Yeah. And I totally understand things escalating. But at the same time, you have to understand that what's more important, the money you're going to have to pay to repaint the building or to fix some glass, or are you really going to take the lives of some people because they want to set a dumpster on fire?
But shouldn't they be the ones to think, is my life worth the dumpster? Or
no, it goes both ways.
But yeah, that's what I do agree that it goes both ways, right? I do agree that there is a level of fear there also. If you're the business owner and you walk outside and there's 30 people out there.
Because you know where we're at, and I deal with people every night. Just, I don't know if this dude sleeping back here is going to get pissed that I kick him out and charge at me with something.
Of course. You know and that's what I'm saying. And those things happen. And And in this, that's why I'm still a little bit on the fence with this whole shooting, because in that, I don't think the guy should have been there. I don't think any of it was right leading up to it. But at some point, I know there was another guy who pulled a gun on him. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not sure if I think that's the only guy who lived, actually.
Right, but that
he
was
shot him in the arm, you know?
Right, that was the third guy, though.
And that's what I'm saying. So it's like, and again, there's so much information. There's so many videos to kind of make a hard decision on this happening. But I know it all could have been avoided if a mom didn't bring her 17-year-old to this gas station, because none of the adults on the scene who were also armed seem to have gotten into it with someone.
Right.
So that's what kind of my argument is the mindset of these people.
He's not at the gas station. He's walking down the middle of the street.
Right.
He's not protecting anything at that point.
Right.
Now he's just walking down the street with a gun.
And so, right. And this is what I'm saying. It's the mindset of people, where people, they're not showing up really saying, I'm going to protect this place. They're showing up saying, if these looters get anywhere near this building, I'm shooting somebody.
Yeah,
right. And that's the thing, is they're not even looking at all of them as some of them are protesters, some of them are looters. They're looking at a mob of people saying these looters are coming to get us. And that, for the most part, is a terrible mindset in that situation, because it's not true.
Because you're going looking for something.
And you're looking for trouble. Right. You see? So that's the thing that bothers me about it.
It's like, I feel like, and why do they always wear camo too? Which is the other thing. Like you're in the military. Like we're going to pick you up, drop you off in the middle of Afghanistan or some crazy country, you know, and put you like you're a Navy SEAL or something, right? Like, I don't understand. I feel like, though, back to Quan, if there's a breach, I feel like you have to, because or fire or something like that, that's one thing. But if people want to spray paint my walls, is that worth shooting somebody over? Yeah. No, I can get some kids out here with some paint and have that taken care of for a few $100. It's like, you know, my insurance will probably even cover that. But now when you're talking about burning down my building, now we have a different,
of course, yeah.
Or you want to come inside and steal stuff that I've paid for, right? Like now,
because especially if I'm here, if I'm inside and I'm armed and I'm going to protect this place, and you come through that door, you getting shot.
Right.
There's not a question about it. What else did you come in here for?
Now, I do got a question on that you guys probably know. Is business the same as home when it comes to intruders?
If you're inside legally and you're allowed to be there, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So. In the state of Nevada, anyway. The state of Nevada, I mean, I can't speak for every state.
And that's all I care about.
Right. State of Nevada, it's what they call your abode, which is anything with 4 walls and a ceiling. So your business, your car, it's even your boat, you know, because a boat can have a top.
So even us right now, we're legally allowed to be here, and protesters, looters, whatever, some psychos come busting in, we're legally allowed to protect this place, protect you, protect him, protect her, protect people on the other side of the door.
And that's what I thought. I just didn't know for sure, because you always hear about it in the home. Yeah. Where, look, if someone breaks in.
The state of Nevada, it's your abode. 4 walls and a ceiling. Car,
and that can even be your car, vehicle, RV, whatever. Yeah. So it doesn't, So, Nevada's cool. Like we got good laws that protect you. Like some states, though, it doesn't matter where you are. Like
California, you go to prison. I mean, you would just, that's, again, it depends on where you're at. So it's kind of along the same subject, because there's an interesting case, and a friend of mine, Sawyer, brought this to my attention, and we always talk about that one incident, right? Like, and you bring him up a lot, the shoe bomber guy, right? So now we all got to take our shoes off, which I still to this day I don't even understand, like why, like we talk about the hypocrisy and things, how I can't bring a bottle that has more than 3 ounces of anything or anything flammable across TSA, but I can walk into, once I get on the other side of TSA, I can go to the duty-free store and buy a gallon of Jack Daniels, which is as flammable as any gasoline or anything else you could find, and I can take that onto a plane with me. None of this stuff doesn't make sense to me.
You can literally, once you pass TSA, between the handful of stores there, you can buy enough things to make
a bomb.
Explosive. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
It's retarded.
Yeah, but God forbid, I got toenail clippers. Right. If I can kill you with toenail clippers, I don't need toenail clippers to kill you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could probably kill you without. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's bro, like you just had it coming, bro. Like he got killed with toenail clippers. Like, it's John Wick 4. That's what he's gonna be killing people with toenail clippers. Like,
there's a case that happened in 1998. And I actually remember this case. There's a deputy in Georgia. His name was Kyle Wayne Dinkeller. And Kyle Wayne Dinkheller pulled over a gentleman by the name of, his last name is Brannon. What's his first full name?
Andrew Brennan.
Andrew Brannon.
Yeah.
He pulls Andrew Brannon over. Andrew Brannon has mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we know, we see because there's a dash cam video on the car. The video is actually on all the stories and stuff we talked to. I put all the articles and the news stuff on our Facebook page at the Negro Please. So you can go and read the stories and check them out for yourself. But essentially, the guy's like dancing in the street, daring the cop to shoot him.
Yeah.
And then things go really bad really quickly. And the reason they say they use it, this is apparently is now like one of these videos that they use in training cops, and it's because the cop didn't shoot the guy right away. Because they don't know for sure because the guy's dead, but they think like they knew there was he knew there was something wrong with the guy and he was trying not to kill him.
Yeah.
Eventually they end up exchanging fire and he dies. And from friends I have that have been through the police academies, essentially they show this, and this is why you have to be on guard at all time, and anything can go bad. And then they put people through these scenarios that replicate this. Right. And the amount of them who die in these training scenarios is incredible because they're never. So the theory is that these strengths and stuff is that because of this case and the way that police officers are trained now, that they have this, it's kill or be killed mentality. Yeah. So now they react too fast to situations. Yeah. Because they've been taught because of this video. And I think it's an interesting dynamic because I remember this, and what I remember most about this case originally back in 1998 was they went and found this guy in a field. Yeah. And he was covered up by a tarp, like he was still in the Vietnam War, like he was hiding in like I think that again, we do this all the time. We make one incident the reason we change everything in the world, right? But we can't take school shootings or mass shootings and make that the one incident that changes anything else that we do, right? Yeah. And I'm all for people owning guns, but I've also said this a million times. I believe that before you buy a gun, you should have to take a class on a gun. Yeah. And you know this because we do a lot of CCW calls. Yeah. Where people come in and have never touched a gun before. Right. And shoot up the building, essentially, and have no idea what they're doing, and they're scared to death. Right. But for CCW purposes in the state of Nevada, they just have to be able to hit the target. Right. Which is a pretty big size target. Right. And they have to take the 8-hour class. Right. There's no requirement that you have to be a good shot to have a CCW permit. Right. There's no requirement that you actually have to know which end of a gun the bullet comes out to buy a gun. Right. Or how to load a gun or how to do any of that stuff. There's no requirement for that. Right. But yet, if I want to, and I know people hate this analogy, but if I want to drive a car, I have to take a 52 question test, go outside and drive it around. And I don't know if we should go that extreme with guns, but I feel like if you're using this one incident as a police officer, right, to change how you do everything, right, and then you see things like mass shootings going on, and even as police officers, you're like, oh, we don't need to change anything here. Like, how come the police federations aren't like, whoa, we need to protect people, right? They're always yelling about protecting themselves from people, but they're not.
The people who they're supposed to be protecting and serving,
right?
You never see them make a fit about, hey, you know what? We need to fix some things so that we can protect people better, and serve people better.
Again, this is the article is on our Facebook page, The Negro Please. There have been 768 police shootings this year where they've killed somebody. Wow. There have been 12 days this year where the police haven't killed anybody. And I think we're at day like 251 or something like that. Wow. They're 257. Yeah. 768 people. And I'm not saying that I don't know these. I don't have all the details on the whole 768 killings. There might have been some really bad people, and there might have been some shootouts, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that we don't know. But that seems like a lot to me.
And at some point, I feel like we do have
to look at deaths. Those aren't those are deaths.
Yeah, we have to look at the number and say, does life mean anything to us, right? Right. Now, half of those, without a doubt, I'm going to probably say are justified bad guys, right? At least half. I would hope I would hope
right.
that at least half.
I would hope it's 75 or 80, 90% of them.
Right, yeah. Or at least, I mean, in a perfect world, 100% of those are justified. You know what I mean? And that's what we all want. We know it's not realistic. We know that the police are humans. Mistakes are going to happen. What I always say is this. If it's justified, fine. Like, dude, give him a promotion. He killed a guy where there was no other choice. And a bad guy, you know what I mean? It just had to happen.
And he saved probably
and he
a
might have
dozen
saved
other lives.
Right,
because he,
exactly. He saved lives. Like, dude, high five. Like, give him a raise, pay vacation, right? But when a life is lost that didn't have to be lost, or that person was innocent, or that person had not stood trial yet, right? Or we don't know what was happening, but we see the video or the dash cam or the body cam, whatever it is, and everybody's looking at it like, wait a minute. Right. You know what I'm saying? Now we need accountability.
I'm glad you said that, right? Because you were talking about, Quan was talking about the home self-defense and stuff. There's a thing that it's called bare fear and reasonable fear, right?
Right.
And bare fear means that you're afraid, but were you reasonably in danger? Like, did you have a
yeah.
Like, and reasonable fear is like when everybody else is like, yeah. If you put 90 people in a room, 80 of them be like, yeah, I probably would have shot that guy too.
Yeah.
But bare fear is like where if you put 90 people in the room,
yeah, only like 5 or 6 of them are like would have done it. Right. And everybody else is like, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly my point is like, we watch these videos of police officers who are supposed to be trained and we're like, I don't know.
Right.
You know, like,
you see what I'm saying? Like
so, that, like the bare fear standard doesn't seem to apply to them.
Right. Because they take bare fear and they turn it into they tell this story, and it's like even with Jacob Blake guy, right? So we looking at it and we're hearing even from cops that, hey, these cops made a handful of mistakes way before
it should never
they should have never got that far, right? But then you hear other people go, well, he had a knife in the car and this and that and whatever. But it's like,
then you
wait
see
a minute.
the Photoshop pictures of him carrying a weapon.
Yeah,
and he's not carrying
but he didn't have a weapon. He didn't get to. And you can't bring up things after the fact and go, oh, yeah, that's what they were afraid of. No, they didn't know that. It wasn't 100%. So, again, I always say when we look at these situations as a whole, everybody tries to make them black and white situations, and they're not. They're extremely gray situations.
They are. And see, I'm on the opposite side of most people in this Jacob Blake thing because I feel like they should have shot him. At the point he opens it should have never gotten to the point where he could get the car door open.
Right.
But once he gets the car door open, I feel like they don't have any choice there.
That's you understand.
I think it's the 7 times though that's getting people, right?
Yeah, well, of course. But that's another problem. You know what I mean?
It is a problem. And we talk about this a lot in the CCW class and stuff is how many times does it take to stop some? How many rounds does it take to stop some? The problem is too also that people get jacked up on adrenaline.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we were shooting last night, and I was shooting a gun I'd never shot before. Had a real easy trigger.
Yeah.
That little 22 revolver.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I hadn't had the gun pointed down range, I probably would have shot somebody because I wasn't expecting the trigger to be like that.
Yeah.
And so you get a gun, or like my friend Paul had that Staccato XC that we were shooting the other day.
Whew, that bad boy.
Yeah. Man, that gun, like, you don't even realize you're pulling the trigger. The trigger's so light. So I don't know what kind of gun he's using or the cop had her, but you get pumped up on adrenaline, and now you got to shoot, and then your fingers just react.
And when you're in that situation, especially for people, which is most people who want to like Monday morning quarterback these things, when you shoot a gun, especially in defense, number one, it's very easy to accidentally fire a second shot.
It is.
Or a third shot. Or once you get to shooting, it's very easy to continue shooting because the gun is moving in your hand, your trigger is squeezing.
You've gone from
your
double
finger is
action
squeezing.
to single action.
Your heart is raised, your heart rate is raised, your adrenaline's pumping, and all those things, and it's very easy to continuously fire shots. The other thing is, when you're a police officer and your partner starts shooting, now this is probably I've had a cop tell me, it's a bad idea for you to start shooting just because your partner is shooting.
But Eric talked about that last week.
That happens because in their mind, oh my goodness, my partner is shooting. He must see something I don't see.
Well, the other thing is, too, when you're in that situation, we've talked a lot about being in a situation where you're in tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Like, you may not know it's your partner shooting. You might think that it's the person that shooting that
Right.
the bad guy is shooting.
Right. You hear we deal with this with people in the range a lot. I'm giving them instruction because they've never fired a gun before. And other people in the range are shooting and they start jumping.
Right.
Like they get, like, you can see it in their face. They're not faking, they're not acting, right?
My friend out there, I took her to the range yesterday, yeah.
So people hear, because you don't understand, and we're in the range with headphones on, right? With ear protection on, right? And it's still very loud. So when you're out in the street and there's already a high adrenaline situation, and then all of a sudden gunshots. I mean, I'm not a cop. And if I'm walking down the street and I hear gunshots, like guns coming out, bro, like what just happened? You know what I mean? So
where they coming from?
Yeah, where's that coming from? Where is it at? Like, we were outside the other day in the morning, and it was a guy in the range, but he was shooting like a cannon, basically. And we're outside and we hear it, and all three of us stopped like, whoa, what was that? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, and there's nothing going on. You know what I mean? We're in an empty parking lot.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But we hear this gunshot. So we're like, whoa, you know, what is that? So when you're standing right there and the partner that you trust and train with, and you work with this guy, and all of a sudden he pulls his gun out and starts shooting, it's very easy for you to do the same thing. So 7 rounds, maybe 5 came from one cop, 2 came from the other. You know what I mean? It could have been 3 and 4. Who knows?
Right.
But in the end, that situation could have been contained by them, hence making what happened their fault.
The other thing we're finding out, though, about the Jacob Blake situation, too, is that a lot of the information we were given in the first place was just wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the reacting without the facts. Like, the original thought was that Jacob Blake was stopping a fight between 2 women, and now we find out that he may have been violating a protection order, and there was a young girl in the house that had claimed that he had raped her, and he wasn't supposed to be at that house to begin with, and there were some other things going on. So, like, originally it sounded like he was a good guy who was trying to break up a fight between 2 women and just was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Right.
Now you're finding out details, and this 2 days later in Minneapolis, or the day after in Minneapolis, 2 days later in Minneapolis, there was a shooting in a parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
The police have video footage. They find out, they see this guy, where the guy's going. They're following cameras.
Yeah.
The police roll up on the guy. The guy takes out his gun. The video is clear as day. Sticks the gun in his mouth and shoots himself.
Wow.
People in Minneapolis didn't wait to hear the story. They went and started rioting and looting downtown Minneapolis.
Yeah.
For no reason. Like, and what this guy killed himself. He knew he knew he'd been caught. He's going to prison. He just decided to take his own life.
Yeah.
So why we have to wait till we get more information?
Yeah, that's the problem with, I think, the media in general, is everybody wants to be first with the story. So they just give up whatever information they have, which is the police chase somebody and now that person's dead, right?
And it's not just police shootings, because we saw this in the Kobe Bryant death, right? Like, Kobe, like Rick Fox's daughter is freaking
Rick Fox
out
is dead. It was
because they thought he was on the helicopter and he was dead, and he got his poor daughter over here crying and thinking her daddy's dead. Because that's what everybody's jumping on a story with. And in fact, when you texted me, I was like, nah, bro, we're gonna wait till we see some more stories. And then like 15 minutes later, like, it was all over the world.
Yeah, and we find out so fast. That was the thing too. I'm sitting here with this one story about Kobe being dead from one source, and I'm trying to verify with other sources, and it was like 45 minutes before it popped up somewhere else. And my thing is, why do you have to be so fast to come up with this story that 45 minutes nobody else even has a
Ricky
clue?
Bobby, if you ain't first, you last.
know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, are you really gonna, like TMZ, are people really gonna stop subscribing and stop watching your show if you happen to be 20 minutes behind? Like, CNN, are you gonna be canceled by next week if you're the second person to report this story? You know what I mean? Like, why do we have to be so fast? Why can't we be right?
Get the information.
Yeah, why can't we get the information and be right? Just be an hour late.
But that's how TMZ exists. It wouldn't exist if they weren't the first. That's how they got to where they're at.
Well, I feel like they got to where they're at because they just they sensationalize celebrities. You know, they took celebrity stuff that nobody else. TMZ was like the king of paparazzi. Like, they're like, And I know a guy that sold a picture to TMZ for like $40,000. I was like, it's ridiculous.
I think I think they're a little different because I think there's still a lot of people who don't respect them as a credible news source because of how bad they used to be. And I think they're a whole lot better now.
Long way from where they used to be.
Yeah, I think they're a lot better now with their accuracy, but still, like, they're at this point though, they're no better than all the other news sources that just have to be first.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And then how many? If you go, I probably like 4 or 5 times in the last couple of weeks, I've read a story, right? And then I've gone back to reread to get some more information out of it, and it's not the same story. And then up top it says updated.
Updated,
5 minutes ago,
right.
And I'm like, this is not what the hell. Like, this is a completely different story than what I read 20 minutes
ago.
It's
like if you have Facebook just open and there's a headline, and then you click on it, all of a sudden the headline changes inside the article, and means something totally different because they were trying to jump on.
Right, they were trying to jump on a story and have the wrong stuff. And I think that we don't hold media accountable for that, and they argue the freedom of the press thing and First Amendment this and that. So I don't know how we can truly hold them accountable for stuff like that.
I think the thing is at some point we the people have to take responsibility for these things. So why does marketing work? Because for the most part, people jump on it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Why does the clickbait work? Because you keep biting the bait. So they're going to keep doing it. You know what I mean? There was this guy from he was a writer on Rolling Stone. I can't remember his name, and he talked about how there were times where, you know, earlier in his career in the 90s and early 2000s, they would spend, you know, obviously like thousands of dollars with them doing research and looking up stories and and actually doing reports on things. And there might be 6 months worth of work into this, like, you know, article that's a few pages long or whatever it may be, right? And then all of a sudden, the clickbait culture happened, and 6 months worth of work would amount to the same amount of clicks as Joey Chestnut eating 64 hot dogs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it was like, well, why are we doing all this work when the same amount of people are going to watch us, you know, exploit Kim Kardashian's new butt job? Right. You know what I'm saying?
Mitch Wilbon, you guys remember him?
Mm-hmm.
He was a sports reporter. I guess he kind of does some now and then. He wrote some books like 5 People You Want to Meet on the Way to Heaven. He got in trouble, and this just shows it was the Final Four, and Michigan State was in the Final Four. And he wrote his article, and he made comments about seeing certain former Michigan State players. Mm-hmm. I think Mateem Cleaves was the guy that he said he saw at the stadium, and Mateem Cleaves was nowhere near there at the time.
Yeah.
So then you find out that he wasn't actually at the game. He was at home watching it on TV and doing the thing from there. So, like, which probably would have been fine, right? Like, does he actually have to be at the game? I mean, you can just watch the game and write an article about it. Like, do you actually have to be there?
Yeah.
But when you start lying about what's going on at the game, and people are like, wait a minute. Like, no. And Mateem Cleaves was the one who was like, hey, because it came out to be something like, he said Mateem Cleaves was there, and then I don't remember who he played for in the NBA, but they were like, hey, you were supposed to be, you know, here because we had a game tomorrow or something. And he was like, I didn't go to Michigan State game.
Right, yeah.
You know, like, and it was kind of the thing. So if he hadn't lied and just said that he wrote the article from home, or he not even said where he wrote the article from, just left out details that nobody cared about anyway.
Yeah, why put those details in?
Right.
Yeah.
He probably would have been fine. But he made stuff up, and then people found out now he's...
You remember that show, The Wire? Was it season 5 or season 6 where they had the guys who were in the newsroom, and the one guy kept making up the stories with like fake details and stuff like that. Right. And the one guy just picked up on it. He was like, "What?" He was like, "You mean tell me like there's 11-year-old black kid going to these baseball games like they can get any and it just didn't sit right with him because he's like, man, black kids don't be into baseball like that. You know what I mean? And it was something about it that was wrong. And I think we as the people have to start kind of holding our news outlets accountable, right? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes we have to look at the actual facts and the things that we actually know. And even when it's a news network that we like, we can't just believe everything that they say. Like, it's still, I still think it's hilarious that Fox News just went on this rant of like, Obama's a Muslim. Like, do you not remember like 2 weeks before that, he was a Christian and his pastor went on this crazy rant or something, and then everybody was like, oh, he's got to denounce his pastor. Like, that was a Christian church.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
It's like I saw a Fox News, like, I was actually walking through a building during the Republican National Convention, and they had Fox News on, and they had I couldn't hear what he was saying, but they had the Herschel Walker speech during the Republican National Convention. And Fox News put lifelong Democrat, endorses Trump. Anybody who's ever heard Herschel Walker speak knows he has never been a Democrat.
Right.
He has always been like this really conservative right-wing guy.
Right. And that's the thing, because like it's easy to pick apart Fox News because it's just so they don't even try to hide it. They just make up stuff half the time. But all the networks are like that. Like CNN is like that. MSNBC is like that. Like any network, any major network that you watch, their news is really slanted. There are very, 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 very few news outlets that just try to give it to you straight and
ABC,
let you pick an opinion.
NBC, and CBS 6 p.m. news on the national line. They just read the news.
Yeah,
they don't give opinions. They just
that's what it should be. I mean, we have to stop giving the media so much power. We have to stop being sheep, as they say, and start being vigilant about it. And when you catch your news network and 3 or 4 lies, like, stop listening to them.
All right, I got one thing to say before we get out of here. Y'all get off Adele. This poor woman can't win for nothing. When she was big, Adele, they said she was fat.
Man.
She lost weight. They said that she shouldn't have done that and that she must have something wrong with her, blah, blah, blah. Now she goes, first of all, I'm jealous that they're actually like having carnivals and music festivals in Europe, and we're not doing that. She apparently showed up to something called the Notting Hill Carnival in England, and she was wearing a pair of pants or a pair of yoga pants and a bikini top that looks like and probably is the flag of
the Jamaican flag, yeah.
And she's got her hair rolled up and whatever. And people are yelling at her for cultural appropriation. Look at this girl. Like,
listen.
She can't win for nothing in life, right? Like, this is just people wanting to make something out of something that it doesn't mean anything.
I can't. All right. Okay. So here's my thing. All right. If cultural appropriation, sometimes we just play in the race car when we don't have to.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, look, man, just because you're holding the Joker don't mean you got to use it right away. Hold on to it for a second sometimes. Okay. If this is an Adele concert and she shows up like this and then she's like got a far Jamaican accent or something, okay, blast her. Get her. You know what I mean? Like, I'm on it. She's at a carnival where I'm pretty sure almost everybody there is probably dressed in a similar fashion, right? I don't know, it's kind of like wearing green on St. Patrick's Day. You know what I mean? Like, that's, what we do, but...
Oh, black people ain't Irish. Why y'all wearing green?
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like cultural appropriation, right?
Right.
And we take that too far. Like, that's where she was at. That's kind of how she was supposed to be dressed if she's going to dress. I mean, what do you want her to do? Come out like in just, some jeans and a t-shirt or
like
one of her evening gowns?
Yeah, from like
start
her concert.
Singing?
Yeah.
Like, dude. And also, okay, here's the thing. Adele was a big girl. Now she's in pretty good shape.
She's going to show it off.
She's, of course.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
She did that work. She deserved to show it off.
Everybody does it. You been to the gym lately?
Yes.
Dudes get, the buffer dudes get, the smaller their tank tops are, right? The more in shape women get, the flatter that tummy gets, the tighter them yoga pants, the more sports bras come out. You know what I'm saying? Like, when people get in shape, they want to show it off.
Who's that? What you said?
I said those yoga pants are always tight. It doesn't matter big or small.
That's true.
Yeah, we're no saggy yoga pants.
I always feel like if you can't fill yoga pants, you shouldn't be wearing yoga pants. Like,
leave this woman alone, man. Let her have a date. My goodness, man. People can't do nothing
right. And like, she's got like this big feather boa thing. Like, she's at a festival.
Right. She's in a costume. Let her be in a costume, man.
You ain't said nothing else about the other 15,000 people at the festival and the way they're looking all crazy and dressed, but you want to just single out leave people alone, man. Stop.
Yeah.
Not necessary.
Not at all, man. Like, dude, when you and then you look at the carnival and everybody in the parade is dressed very similar.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at one picture now, and a lot of these people are not of color. So it ain't like she's the only non-black person or non-colored person there.
Oh, but because she's Adele, we have to hold her to a higher standard.
Oh, yeah, because she's Adele, she's got to come out.
Because she sings soulfully. I mean, come on.
Singing a theme song to James Bond or something.
I don't understand, our wanting to go straight there. Man, this one, we got about 5 minutes, Quan. We've been seeing this so often lately. And Ron Jeremy, yes, the porn star guy who, like, how he ever made it into porn, like, apparently you just have to have a big thing. You don't have to be attractive. But he's 67 years old.
Wow.
And he was already facing 20 counts. No, I'm sorry. They added 20 more counts to his rape and sexual assault charges.
Wow.
Since 2004, he has 17 alleged victims, ranging in the ranges from 15 years old all the way up to, I believe, 54 years old. Yeah, 15 to 54.
Wow.
This is not something the police are just like, oh, somebody said something and they went and arrested him for it.
Yeah.
This apparently is an ongoing 2-year investigation.
Yeah.
That they've been doing, that this has been going on. He's in jail right now for $6.6 million. I do not understand this rape culture that we've become.
At this point, I'm gonna have to say I'm kind of hoping that he spends the rest of his life in jail. Granted, they've not said he's guilty yet, but if the police are willing to spend 2 years investigating, that means they are pretty sure they have a solid case and they're just building it up until they get it, because they know you ain't going nowhere. They know how to find you. You're famous. You know what I'm saying?
Eric Kelly's talked about this on the show before about wanting to get it right.
Yeah,
wanting to win, right?
Yeah.
So you don't arrest somebody immediately because you want to make sure that you have you don't want to blow it.
Right.
So 2 years worth of investigation.
Yeah, they got it.
This isn't something that they took lightly.
Right.
They got involved with 17 different women, everything from forcible sex, rape, to having lewd conduct with a 15-year-old girl, 8 forcible rapes.
And
a whole list of other types of sexual assault and stuff like that.
Yeah. And it sucks because you look at it. It's hard to tell the character of a person who's in the adult film industry for so long, because is this just another famous person who's taking advantage of people? Are these just date rapes going wrong? You know, are dates that went wrong and turned into date rape?
One is a thing, right?
But that's what I'm saying. So there was one type of rape. Like, this dude's covered all the different types of rape,
right?
Like forcible rape, like forcible sodomy, underage kids, like older women. Like, if there's a genre of rape, he's got them all. You know what I'm saying? So you can't. If it's one person, sometimes you give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, I don't know. Build a case. Let's see. Present the evidence, and then we'll make a decision.
I feel the same way about Bill Cosby. Like, there's 30. Bill Cosby had, I don't know what he had, 30 women come up and they all told the same story, that this is how.
So at some point, 1 or 2 women, maybe they're making it up because he's famous. They want money, XYZ.
Same with R. Kelly.
At some point, it's like, man, okay, this is becoming overwhelming, bro.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? All these women aren't necessarily being paid. You know what I mean? Like, 1 or 2, maybe 3. You're famous. You're in this. Yeah, you're an easy target. Okay, 30 women, 20 women, 50 women, like. Bruh.
And
get this man off the streets, man.
California, for all the crazy laws they have that are super strict on things, people just voted in California. This one doesn't even make any sense to me. They changed, essentially, you can have sex with somebody 10 years younger than you. And, not be charged as like, so if you're 18 and you're having sex with an 8-year-old girl, it redefines the pedophile rules and stuff.
Man, it's turning out, man, the only thing good in California is the weather. The beaches are too cold. The people too crazy. I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. It's who votes on that? Who says that's okay?
The people of California.
You know what I'm
voted,
saying?
right.
Like, what's wrong with you? Like, are there really that many people who think that's legit?
Right.
Apparently
there is.
You're 21 years old.
That's
and
why
it's legally allowable to get with an 11-year-old?
Yeah. So that's why there's not the uproar that we think there should be over Epstein, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because too many people agree with this.
Yeah.
This
mean,
mentality that
I mean, and this is even kind of like case by case and debatable. If you're going to make a law like that, I'm expecting 1 or 2 years, right?
Right.
If you're 18 because you're in high school and you meet a girl, she's 16, you're both in high school.
See,
like,
yeah, those things
it's
drive me
arguable,
crazy. Like when
right?
you know
what I'm saying?
I have a problem with those when like 19-year-old kids and 16-year-old kids have sex. And
right. Yeah.
Like one of them, it's statutory rape, and I'm like. So if they were 20 and 23, it would be okay, but 19 and 16.
And that's the thing.
And
like,
I understand there's a big mentality difference between a 16-year-old and a 20-year-old.
Right.
But
so and that's why I'm saying like everything I think should be case by case when it's close like that.
Right.
I can't see a case by case difference when you're talking about 10 years.
Right.
25 and 15? No way. You know what I'm saying? Like 20 and 10? No way. You know what I mean? Like who votes on this crazy stuff, man?
All right. We're about to get out of here,
man.
but before I go, I got to tell you this. Cobra Kai is the greatest thing to ever come on Netflix. Cobra Kai is...
I'm sick of you lay people that wouldn't spend $5 on YouTube Premium.
Problem was YouTube Premium didn't have anything else. That's why nobody bought it.
Yeah,
all they had was Cobra Kai. But Cobra Kai is phenomenal.
You could have bought it for a month and watched the whole series.
Oh,
that's probably true.
Or I just wait 2 years for it to come down. It was so good. I binge watched the entire thing in like a day and a half. It's, man, y'all, if you haven't seen Cobra Kai yet, go watch Cobra. Especially if you're an 80s child, somebody who grew up in the 80s, early 90s, it just brings back so much stuff.
I saw the first episode in the movie theater.
Of
Karate Kid?
Cobra Kai in the movie?
Cobra Kai.
They showed Karate Kid and Cobra Kai.
The first episode I thought was kind of cheesy, but I was like, okay, I'm okay. And then after that, I was like, oh, this man. I told Steve, like, I wanted to go back to take more Taekwondo classes.
Ali in season 3.
I'm Dallas Scott, Hollywood Huff, Quan the producer. This is Negro Please. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube page. And thank you guys for listening. We will not be here next week for sure because it's a holiday.
Yeah.